Hello and welcome to News Round, a recap of stories in the week. I'm Teniola Shoboale, the headlines. An early morning attack on the Imo State prison in Owerri sees the escape of 1,844 inmates. State Police headquarters also attacked in Owerri. 10 of the 39 students abducted from the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization in Kaduna State regained freedom, narrates their experience in captivity. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo decorates Usman Alkali Baba as Acting Inspector General of Police, challenges him to restore public trust in the force. Plus, the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, dies at the age of 99. That's News Round in View. News Round begins with the brazen attack by gunmen on the Nigeria Correctional Center in Owerri, the Imo State capital, leading to the escape of 1,844 inmates from the facility. The gunmen also set the building as well as the police command headquarters and no fewer than 50 vehicles within the premises on fire. The state police headquarters and the correctional center are located close to the government house.
The usually bubbling streets of Owerri is deserted as most residents remain indoors and businesses closed. Monday, April the 5th, a day to remember for residents of Imo State who woke up to the news of an attack on the Nigeria Correctional Service and the Imo State Police Command headquarters, freeing about 1,844 inmates and destroying property worth millions of naira. At both facilities, what is evident are shattered windows, burnt vehicles, burnt offices, documents and buildings all touched. Prison authorities in the state confirmed the operation lasted for hours.
You can see the extent of the damage so far. You can see our burnt vehicles and things equally affected the building. However, I want to assure you people that at the appropriate time, when we get our facts together, we'll be able to address you on this issue.
Then Governor Hope Uzodinma immediately convenes an emergency meeting with heads of security agencies in the state. After the meeting, which lasted about an hour, the governor then leads the team on a tour of the affected facilities, where he condemned the incident in strong terms.
I want to assure our people the intention is to put fear into our people and make them vulnerable. But I can assure you that government, working with security agencies, will rise to the occasion and get to the end of the matter. I've already commissioned a detailed investigation into this incident with a view to finding out the perpetrators and the masterminds of this ugly incident.
Residents say they still live in fear of the unknown.
This is our 60 years now. We are talking about security, we are talking about infrastructure, we are talking about things that are not supposed to be done. So it's so painful in everything.
There should be an adequate security so that the people's life will be safe and people working, because if you see majority of everybody now, everybody is working with fear, but I believe the government should create more security.
This is the 5th time the Nigerian police is recording an attack on its facility in Imo State within the last 2 months by gunmen. Hopefully, the government and security operatives will match words with action to ensure that the perpetrators are brought to book to put an end to this ugly trend. Eyitokwekutei, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the newly appointed Acting Inspector General of Police, Mr. Usman Alkali Baba, has his job cut out, faced with the task of repositioning the police to regain the trust of Nigerians. This was the charge given to him while being decorated with the new rank of Inspector General of Police by the Vice President, Professor Imo State Attack. Mr. Baba, who was officially resumed duties, was asked to rebuild broken bridges of trust between Nigerians and the police.
Nigeria's 21st Indigenous Inspector General of Police arrives at the State House ahead of his decoration. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshinbajo, performs the decoration ceremony in the presence of the wife of the new police chief, as well as the outgoing Inspector General of Police, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, and the Minister of Police Affairs, Mr. Margaret Ngyadi. Professor Oshinbajo also gave a charge to the new police boss.
Under your leadership, the police must now rebuild, in some ways also, the broken bridges of trust with the public and regain the confidence of the citizenry. This is an ongoing challenge, it's an ongoing task that the police force and all of the senior members of the police force must take on as a responsibility.
The new IG of police is aware of the task ahead of him, and he declares he is prepared to tackle the challenge.
I came in at a very challenging time. I know it, I've recognized it, and I will work on how to improve from where my predecessor has left.
At the force headquarters, the #1 police officer inspector guard of honor. He proceeds to the conference hall for the traditional handing over of baton, and then he sees off his predecessor. In his maiden address, he promises to ensure that the police is restored as a major force in the country.
The task of restoring the primacy of Nigerian police in the internal security architecture of the country is the main challenge ahead of all of us. It is, however, a task that I am convinced we can surmount if we resolve as a people to partner and present a common front against the subversive and criminal elements who are the common enemies of the whole nation.
Nevertheless, he has a word of advice for the officers.
I am mindful of the yearnings of Nigerians for a policing system that will not only assure them of their safety, but treat them with civility and hold their human rights sacred.
As he settles down to business, the task ahead of him is well cut out and is expected to tackle the security challenges ahead of the country.
And some good news from Kaduna State, where 10 of the 39 kidnapped students of the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization have been found. The first batch of 5 students were reunited with their families on Monday after spending about 26 days in the kidnappers' den, while the next 5 were released by their abductors on Friday.
On Monday, April the 5th, 2021, The first set of rescue students of the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization in Kaduna State arrive at the State Government House, accompanied by the state's Emergency Management Agency. 25 days gone after the incident, only 5 of them are freed from their captors, while the fate of the remaining 34 still hang in the balance. It's an emotional moment for the 5 as they reunite with their parents one after the other. They could not hold back their tears as they share the harrowing experience of the 25 days spent in the hands of their abductors. Francis and Amina say they are still in shock and unhappy that their colleagues are still out there in the kidnappers' den.
It was on the 11th of March, yes, that we were taken from the hostel. So they just came, told us to wake up from our sleep, then took us out of the school compound and asked us to lay down on the ground. After laying down on the ground, then they took the school back premises, not knowing the fence was broken already. So they broke the fence with digger and took us out of the hole that they broke themselves. While going out there, that was when we saw majority of them filled with bikes and other things and ammunitions. That was what they just got out of from there to another place, from there to another place, from there to another place. We don't even know where we were. Just bush to bush movement.
They came around 12 and come and pack us. They take us there. We don't know even the place. I can't even describe it. Because we used to sleep on ground without anything to cover our body.
For the parents of the freed students, it's been a long wait, but they are happy at last that their children are back alive.
I'm not sleeping and I have BP. I'm not sleeping at all. I've been doing fasting and prayer.
With the release of these 5 students, the state government is reassuring other parents that the remaining will be freed soon, while the state government makes provision for post-trauma evaluation for them.
Upon their retrieval, the governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, immediately directed the Ministry of Human Services and Social Development and the State Emergency Management Agency to offer direct support with the management of the students.
Days after the release of the first 5, another set of 5 students abducted from the college regained their freedom. After undergoing medical and psychological evaluation, they reunite with their families and the management of their school. Despite the harrowing experience in the hands of the bandits, the freed students say they are determined to complete their studies at the college, with hopes that others still in custody will return safely.
I want to continue because we have done a lot of things and we have already write exam for first semester. We have seen our result, and for our second semester exam, we have been reading for it to be able to write our exam.
We thank God the Almighty that have made their release possible through the stakeholder that could give them the capability, the courage to see that we have received them today successfully.
Although the fate of the remaining 29 students seemed to hang in the balance, the provost of the college remains hopeful that there will be light at the end of the tunnel and others will return safely.
On behalf of the Forestry Research Institute and the Federal College of Forestry, Kaduna, we are very grateful. We are thanking Kaduna State Government, and still we need their support. As he said, we want them to give us full support, full cooperation until all our students are back.
His conviction gets an assurance from the State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, who says government will match its promises with action.
The government will not relent in its work and commitment towards recovering the remaining hostages by the grace of God.
As the students reunite with their families, What's more important to them is for authorities concerned to hasten the rescue of their colleagues so they all can return to class.
When Newsround returns in just a moment, courts across the country remain shut as judiciary workers embark on industrial action. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. To the judiciary now. Courts across the country have remained shut as judiciary workers embarked on an indefinite industrial action. The Judiciary Staff Union downed tools to press home their demand for financial autonomy and independence of the judiciary at the state and federal level. As in other parts of the country, officials of the union locked out staff, litigants and lawyers from the court buildings in the nation's capital, Abuja.
Empty car parks, gates locked with security operatives on guard. That is the situation at the Federal High Court in Abuja as the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria commences an indefinite strike action. The ever-busy FCT High Court and the National Industrial Court suffers the same fate as both places are deserted. The situation is not different from the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court as workers mill around the gates while officials of the union monitor compliance.
JUSU resumed this strike. It was a suspended strike in 2014, 2015. We had this strike, and it's all issue of independency of the judiciary, Section 121, to be obeyed by the governor. It's a constitutional matter in which the governors of this country swore to uphold and to obey, but they refuse to choose, or they choose and pick which to obey and which not to comply with.
On May 22, 2020, President Buhari signed into law an executive order granting financial autonomy to the legislature and the judiciary across the 36 states of the Federation. The Executive Order number 10 of 2020 made it mandatory for all states to include the allocations of both the legislature and the judiciary in the first-line charge of their budgets. The order also stipulates that for states which refuse to grant such autonomy, it mandates the Accountant General of the Federation to deduct from source the amount due to the state legislatures and judiciary from the monthly allocation to each state. But JUSU claims many states are not complying.
If you look at the legislatures and the executives, they are autonomous body. But we have interference into our affairs, just like as I quoted in Section 271 of the Constitution. It provides, and I quote, the appointment of chief judge of a state shall be made by the governor of the state. Why shall be made by the governor of the state? This is an interference.
Members of the union are complying with the order to stay away from work as the union insists that the strike must continue till all demands are met by the government.
Dynamic and unprecedented. That's how the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has described the role and views of the First Lady, Hajiya Aisha Buhari. This was at the presentation of the book, Aisha Buhari Being Different, authored by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Administration and Women Affairs, Dr. Hajo Sani, at the Presidential Villa. Professor Osinbajo said the contributions of the First Lady to national development stands out, among others, in history.
A gathering of high-profile politicians, including the national leader of the All Progressives Congress, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, amongst other eminent leaders and royal fathers. They have converged on the State House for the official presentation of a book on the First Lady of Nigeria, Mrs. Aisha Buhari. Accompanied by the wife of the Vice President, Mrs. Dolapo Osinbajo, the First Lady acknowledges governors and other eminent Nigerians before the arrival of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo.
Shall we be seated, please?
Illuminating the credible attributes of the First Lady, the party's national leader believes that the nation has gained from her invaluable contributions as chronicled in the book.
She has been a voice of conscience, calling us to be of our better selves for the good of the nation and for the vulnerable among us. Our efforts contributed to her husband's success, no doubt.
From other perspectives summarized within several messages, the First Lady's courage and humanitarian efforts are highlighted.
While focused on her role as First Lady, the real message is that each of us in our roles can use our power to influence change and empower others, especially the most vulnerable.
For courage, for commitment and compassion, you have no other place to go than in the direction of Our Excellency, the First Lady of the Federal Republic, Dr. Aisha Buhari.
Wife of Nigeria's former president, Mrs. Patience Jonathan, is among those who witnessed the public presentation of the 10-chapter book. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, outlines the spontaneity of Mrs. Buhari as unprecedented.
She's, of course, the First Lady to be on Twitter, on Instagram, and other social media platforms. With her views forthright, crisp, truthful, and once in a while controversial, she has established an ongoing conversation with the Nigerian people. Let me end with the words of Aisha Buhari's doting sweetheart, the man who knows her best, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, and I quote him, "I've observed with keen interest as she addresses many of the social concerns that have given her sleepless nights. She has therefore been a worthy partner and a beacon for some of the good things that Nigerians have come to identify with our government." End of quote. And I concur. I agree.
The doggedness of the First Lady in her quest to address national concerns is robustly captured by all, including her children.
Of Nigeria.
From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
News round ends in the United Kingdom, where the death of Prince Philip, Queen Elizabeth II's husband, has been announced. He died at the age of 99. A statement issued by the palace spoke of the Queen's deep sorrow following his death at Windsor Castle on Friday morning.
The news was released on Friday morning by Buckingham Palace with the statement, "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen has announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle." A few minutes later, a notice was attached to the palace gates, as is traditional. Prince Philip was born on the Greek island of Corfu on the 10th of June 1921. He married Princess Elizabeth in 1947, 5 years before she became Queen, and was the longest-serving royal consort in British history. The couple had 4 children, 8 grandchildren, and 10 great-grandchildren. Often controversial, he was also known for his wit, with the Queen regularly enjoying his famous sense of humour. In March, the Duke of Edinburgh left hospital after a month-long stay for treatment. He also underwent a procedure for a pre-existing heart condition. Flags on landmark buildings around Britain have been lowered to half-mast as a period of mourning was announced, and the funeral arrangements are set to be made over the coming days. Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, who has died at the age of 99.
May his soul rest in peace. And that's News Round this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shiboale. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.